Yes, today's date is July 31st, 2023. I'm battling with the Brooklyn bankruptcy judges that truly overlook all the willful, reckless violation that was going on with void sale, void deed, foreclosure, eviction, garnishment under section 362, 1301 and 5010 of the bankruptcy federal code or law, federal questioning. So I sit out here writing up part of my adversarial proceeding because they refuse to also give me my discharge, reinstate my case, or all others. See, they're just playing games with our life when it comes to financial destruction, financial robbery, financial fraud, financial scamming the integrity of the court system itself. A lot of good judges is working hard in the system while a lot of bad judges stick around and do their fraud with banks, Wall Street, courts, etc. It's like a three-legged table and a three-legged chair up to this moment in time with the court record archived system under fraud upon the court, when judges is overlooking these criminals and crime with all defendant involved, whether it be with beneficial mortgage, Wall Street, courts, banks, and Plaza Home LLC investors without security or home equity. It's home equity criminals. They watch and see what's going on in every borough of the borough of New York City, in every county, to rob and thief from vulnerable people with our children. It's a form of slavery and murder, because our foreparents had was to go long beyond slavery, and slavery is still on in our face up to this day. When judges refuse to uphold the law of the United States Constitution, we have to talk about it, as they willfully, recklessly violating federal law and also the Constitution itself. Paperwork want to blow away from me. That's nice. My paperwork just started to blow away out of my hand just now, and I have to run to catch it. So I'm gonna try and see if I can, since I just retrieve all my paperwork that just blew out of my hand, if I can just go into the court, because this judge, like many judges, with their intimidation on the cases of harassment, for a fresh start, with our bankruptcy chapter 13 that became more so a breach. We mustn't talk about federal question or the breach or the Constitution, knowing I got robbed out of my house with unjust enrichment with the automatic stay, the sort of trick and trickery that's still going on in the entire court system, whether a judge want to overlook their oaths and bond, duty, and much more to the United States Constitution, or people livelihood in general, with our children, home equity, asset and property, housing, much, much more, because all these form of discrimination that's plaguing me, on the income discrimination, job discrimination, or for a fresh start that I didn't even get on the breach of my bankruptcy with these banks and Wall Street and investors and court judges who's doing their wrong with the three-legged table and the three-legged chair. For the court system to have balance, it have to sit on a four-legged table and a four-legged chair, not three, not two, not one, all four legs. And there's no balance in the court system because of corruption, coercion, bribery, you name it, everything and anything that I might not said when it comes to covering up these crimes with these criminals, as President Obama did bail out Wall Street and the bank that still continue to do these things to people up to this day. The people of color is getting the shitty end of the stick. We're all taxpayers. We got to speak out against the harm, the injury, the damages, and much, much more that they continue to deprive us life over. Freedom, liberty, etc., etc., that was written in the United States Constitution as guarantee. A lot of judges with their oaths and their bond is just strictly dirty. The court system with its integrity need to get rid of some of these trustee judges and much, much more that's corrupting the court system, to overlook a person chapter 13 with income, equity, rental income from my house, and even my corporation or my business, because I was home-based to my house though. I was trying to keep a roof over my children's head. Our equity in our home could have educated our children, by another business, another house, and much, much more. But these trustees and judges and banks and Wall Street and investors want to play dirty and think anything that sits on the court system archives record is not fraud up to this day. Fraud upon the court, as they robbing us by leave and bound. It's mostly black people in our community. All these atrocity with financial destruction is destroying with the bankruptcy court, especially with Brooklyn Bankruptcy Court, Queens Supreme Foreclosure Court, Queen Civil Housing Court. All these judges continue to be a set of gangsters to want to cover up these fraud with the automatic stay under a fresh start or chapter 13 or 11 to reorganize. Get a reorganization plan with our reorganization endeavorment. I remember paying $500 into my reorganization plan as Judge Carla E. Crane for the Brooklyn Bankruptcy Court did give me the plan. But why Trustee Michael sent back the $500 in advance in my face? I paid 2 months up front. That was my first payment, and it was thrown back in my face. You know, and then to have a bankruptcy court judge recently told me I owe bankruptcy court. I don't owe nobody a fuck. So we have to speak out about this corruption, because even when I filed my first appeal from the bankruptcy Brooklyn court to the Brooklyn District Court, I remember they was forcing me to pay for the appeal, and I said due to what they did to me or doing to me to bankrupt me more than giving me a fresh start, what I would do is ask the district court for financial relief under a poor person relief status, a financial statement to show they was doing their willful, reckless violation to cause financial destruction from one court to another. You know, a disability lawyer for legal aids once told me he's also a housing court lawyer. He's also maybe a bankruptcy court lawyer, or vast in the many study of law, the different study of law. He told me under my kids and our disability, we could also sue Brooklyn County, which is King County. We could also sue Queens County that I had lived in with the foreclosure and the eviction. And maybe I could tell myself, go for any other county who was a part of this corruption. Because all we're getting in the court system is 5 minutes justice. Judges barring us when we're the victim, sanctioning us when we're the victim. Because they know knowingly we can't afford an attorney who would represent us in the courts of appeal, much less the district court. My 2 bankruptcy lawyer was a big misrepresentation. They took my money and all they did was abandon me. Wanted far more to come to court late, far more to take my money, and don't want to give me receipt. Even one of the trustee that they barred, Trustee Gilbert, was telling us, several of us at a second bankruptcy meeting, any lawyer that takes our money and don't want to pay us and don't want to give us a receipt to pay them, in fact, sorry, it's just paying themselves and will be robbing Uncle Sam and us. Robbing the IRS and us when they don't want to give us a receipt. You know how much time I asked the second bankruptcy lawyer to give me a receipt? I hired him to reopen my first bankruptcy case, and he's saying, Sonia, it's best to do a second bankruptcy. These lawyers don't know one fuck what they saying or doing. All they doing is just misrepresentation and robbing us and Uncle Sam and more, committing fraud when they take our money, come to court late, abandon us. Just like my first lawyer, that Trustee Michael did come to court late and wanted $4,000 up front from me to continue my case. But he was telling his staff the day when he wasn't in his office and was telling me he's stuck in the bankruptcy court to draw up my petition to file my first ever Chapter 13. He was telling them what to do. They didn't even know how to use the software to do the petition rightly. And then he's telling me he won $4,000 to $5,000 to continue. Where am I to get that from? I would have to go rob Peter to pay Paul. Because I lost on another acquisition when the bank was soliciting to refinance me all that equity that I built in my home as the market value was rising. Market value was uproaring. Everybody want to rob somebody's house during those times. As soon as you put equity in your home, the bank even soliciting and drawing bad card to pre-foreclose. Thank God I have Mr. Isaac Parcel as my financial advisor before he actually say, Miss Cole, since the bank trying to foreclose on your equity that they solicitate, they would refinance you, shit. Believe you me, was trying to close another acquisition when the bank drawing bad card, and Mr. Isaac Parcel told me, go and file a Chapter 13 to stop the bank from robbing my equity. So the trustee didn't know I have that much equity. He didn't know I have income from rental income coming from my house with a bed and breakfast. that are qualify under a reorganization with a Chapter 13 for a fresh start. All these things they didn't know as they did their corruption to corrupt the system court or the court system integrity. And I must run from judges who continue to threaten our livelihood with corruption and cover up as they act like gangster with other judges who did us wrong. The fact that Judge Jill is telling me what Judge Carla E. Crane or Judge Fella or what didn't do, they overlook my case. You want to overlook it? Continue overlook it with the federal question that I'm going to throw at everybody and anybody. Because the federal law and rules and code is in bankruptcy itself. So what happened to Section 362 and 1301 and 5010? With the automatic stay and the most mistake creditors will make once they declare Chapter 13. Continue lawsuit, foreclosure, eviction that they make. That those are the most mistake. It shows us the federal law under bankruptcy guarantee us with the automatic stay. So when a judge wants to willfully, recklessly overlook all these violations with banks, Wall Street, and all others with our security, or home equity, or income, or job, and much, much more for our children that they do in their unjust enrichment under with their embezzlement or fraud upon the court. I mustn't speak out. Hey, you lie. That's where all of you went wrong, to try and intimidate me further on the cases of harassment with void sale, void deed foreclosure, or deed fraud, to have judges sanction and bar me. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know the law, but I'm willing and able to tell myself I have to prosecute all these wrongs. Because even when I tried was to go to paralegal school, here came 9/11. The school never did open up back. I didn't even get certified. Because we was being told that we now paralegal of this school, that school in Manhattan, would be certified just like lawyers for the first time ever. But then came 9/11. And I could talk about the rest and more, because even on the 9/11, when judges not supposed to be frustrating our peace with our Chapter 13, the foreclosure and the eviction, they was doing a lot of cases of harassment with the biggest mistake creditors continue to do under the automatic stay with Section 362 and 1301. 1301 or 5010. Have many judges overlook what they would be doing to people to rob us blind out of our house, out of our home equity, from our children education, and much, much more, with lead-based poisoning rehabilitation program to rebuild a 1946 house that gave my kids 22, 23, 24 lead level in their blood for the doctor to call the city and the state to come in to test my house for lead-based poisoning, which they did. Which they said, Miss Cole, you can't paint over, much less sheetrock over this lead issue that gave your kids lead poisoning. And if you don't start complying, we would fine you $1,000 and have ACS come in and take away your kids. Which even happened with the automatic stay, the average lawsuit, foreclosure, eviction, garnishment. Further housing discrimination, bankruptcy discrimination, foreclosure discrimination, Queen Civil Housing Court discrimination, and all other form of discrimination, job, income, you name it. Continuously. And I must run. I'm holding judges accountable for overlooking all these federal question and federal violation on the federal law or federal rule or federal code within bankruptcy court. And they think even if it take the next 23 to 25 years I must run as they bar and sanction me throughout. I got bar and sanction, I don't know if it was around throughout 2004 to silence me, to have me run, to threaten my livelihood with the financial destruction they was doing to us because we declare a chapter 13 for bankruptcy protection for a fresh start. What happened to the guarantee? On the federal question, on the federal law, on the federal code, on the federal rule, or diversity lawsuit as it stands for. People of color being frustrated over our bankruptcy filing to take our attention away while they want to silence us and discriminate us, evict us, and just financially destroy us, causing damage and injury and further harm, mental anguish. And I must run? Hell to the no. I need bankruptcy court to give me retroactive relief. Whether through the district court, if the judge don't know under bankruptcy rule, I'm to go to the district court for, since they are the original court within bankruptcy court. The judge Jill was talking about all she as a bankruptcy judge must do is financial reorganization. Did I ever get it? Or just bankruptcy breach? As the breach continue to cover up the three-legged table and the three-legged chair, to cover up the court integrity that they did mistake and error and far worse under to destroy us. I'm not a slave. I'm not a slave. So let me just look at the time since lunchtime.